We'll get there. How are we doing, guys? Sorry about that. Me and Corey were waiting for 30 awkward seconds then to go live. Eventually it got there, just as I started to talk, as always. But guys, thanks for joining us. As always, you'll recognise this man. The main man from before the whistle blows. Our man, Corey Kemp. How are you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I just seen United go down 1-0, so it made me feel a little bit better about Saturday's result. But yeah, all good, mate. All good.
Great. I mean, mate, just before we went live, Man United have gone 1 down. What a lovely, lovely surprise. And talking of lovely surprises, today, guys, we got confirmed by the Football Content Awards as the gold winner of the best club content creator. And to be honest, guys, lost for words. I cannot thank you guys enough. Corey has helped us a lot along the last couple of months as well. I can't thank Corey enough as well. Fantastic support from Corey. But guys, it's an absolute honour to win this. It's serious, serious honour. And myself and Joe will be going live tomorrow. With obviously our joint pre-match for the game as well. And we can only thank you enough. We'll, of course, get Joe Wainman's thoughts on it as well. But guys, just can't thank you enough. Literally speechless. To win an award like this is just absolutely incredible. But guys, get your comments in. You'll want to know what you're thinking ahead of this game. And we're going to talk to an expert on the West Ham. So, mate, obviously, looking at West Ham, obviously, the last result was a little bit... Look, it was disappointing, especially the way you played in that first half. I thought, I saw a lot of the game in that first half. I thought, you were excellent, to be honest. I thought you were excellent. You could have been 2 or 3 up at half time. Ultimately, you score quite early, but you can't get that second goal. And obviously, it's always dangerous against Man United. But I have to say, I think Jarrod Bowen...
Oh, can't hear you, mate.
Is that okay, mate? Just
I got Jarrod Bowen. Great player.
Jarrod Bowen. Yeah, he's one because he's got a decent goal scoring record against Leeds. We played against him a lot of times at Hull. I mean, what would you say your danger men are going into this one?
Oh, I mean, you've touched on him. I think Jarrod Bowen. It's interesting. I've done my Leeds homework, so I kind of know what I'm talking about. But I think Leeds, particularly on the transition, can open themselves up a little bit. And I think particularly with the back two, you've obviously got Cooper, Llorente. They can get split. And I think West Ham, if they attack with the 3 up front, you've got pace with the likes of Bowen. If we can add Ben Rama to that, I think those 2 in particular with the pace can cause you some real issues. But I don't know. I mean, you've got them, then you've got from set pieces, which I think ultimately is probably your weakest point. Souček late runs into the box from deliveries. Ogbonna, Allaire, Declan Rice as well. I think set pieces and a lot of the players that I've mentioned will be the key danger men. But it's tough, mate. Leeds are a good side. They work hard. They press hard. My concern is just getting up there under the pitch, and West Ham are going to have to take risks in order to do it.
Yeah, it does feel like that because obviously West Ham, in terms of possession, I know obviously possession can be a misleading stat, but I think obviously among actually the lowest in the league. Not to have a go at West Ham in any way, but that's clearly David Moyes has always had that reputation from his Everton days. Long balls into Marriott Fellaini back in the day, or long balls into Tim Cahill. It's something that's kind of followed David Moyes all around his career. But I think at West Ham, to be fair, mate, I think you see a lot of qualities in that West Ham team. I certainly do. From that Everton side, it's a team that for me is definitely looking like a top 7, top 8 team, possibly more. Depending on if they properly back Moyes. Obviously, I know that's kind of been the big thing, with West Ham last couple of years. I know we all know about the on-pitch protests and that, and we've spoken a little bit about that in the past. But it's interesting. I mean, obviously, in terms of ourselves, we're like second, in terms of the possession count as well. So it very much feels like chalk and cheese. But that's not necessarily a bad thing from West Ham's point of view. You've seen Leicester, Palace, with less than 35% of the ball, score 4 goals against us. Is that something you could be very much expecting? We're also have a lot of the ball and a lot of territory in this game. Very much West Ham purely on the counter-attack and just trying to sit in and keep it as tight as possible early doors.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it benefits us in some cases not having the ball. And I think we were used to seeing a low block against some of the bigger teams, Man City, Liverpool, and we countered and we did it effectively and it was good to see and we took our chances. I think when we play teams like Fulham, a little bit more possession-based, Sheffield United, we have to try and break them down. And I think Moyes has shown a little bit of willingness to do that. He gets the team to press a little bit more, but it opens us up. And that's why I was so gutted with the Man United result, because I thought for the first 45 minutes, the press was superb. And I think particularly with the back three pressing, winning it off Martial in midfield areas, we could squeeze Leeds like that. But the problem is with someone like Leeds is you've got the mobility, they bring men forward. You've got players like Click and Phillips will press us as well. It just suits West Ham just for sitting back, and that sort of counter-attack transition is what I want to see from us. But Moyes just has that tendency. Don't be surprised in the first 10 minutes if he tries to press Leeds, because I think it's more of a mindset thing with him. I think he wants to set the tempo very early, create chances, get crosses into the box, and it might throw you off a little bit. I know you're fantastically fit, and I've seen all the clips of your players, but it is a tactic that does get teams. We do tend to get early goals.
I mean, obviously, going into this game, our big problem is our main centre-back, in terms of our most aerially dominant centre-back, Robin Koch, is about to undergo surgery on the injury picked up against Chelsea. So obviously, set pieces before Robin Koch got injured were a bit of a problem for us. It's only exacerbated the problem. I mean, obviously, I'm looking at West Ham. I'm looking at Balbuena, Ogbonna, even Antonio if he plays, or Haller, whoever plays up top. Declan Rice, Zucek, probably the most obvious one. Moyes' new Marriot on the back post kind of thing. So
don't disrespect him like that. He's brilliant.
No, Marriott Fellaini. That's I don't know why with David Moyes. He's the player. Him and Leighton Baines crossing the ball into the box. And I watched quite a lot of that West Everton team back in the day, and it was so like it's like a real what's the best word for it?
Double act type thing.
Yeah, it was one of those teams. As Seamus Coleman, you can kind of, for some reason, I just remember that team quite a lot. It's kind of like Premier League history. I don't really know why. It just kind of it was a really
probably because he played the same players week in, week out. So that's why you remember him.
It's the same thing as did at West Ham, but you kind of got the same idea. Obviously, Souček, very big threat in the box. And do you think that's something where you can hurt us on set pieces? In terms of, I mean, who's your main set piece taker at the minute?
I think it's Aaron Creswell from the left, and then it's Jarrod Bowen from the right. And listen, both of them have chalked up assists recently. I think one of the most interesting thing about Creswell that you probably won't see in this game is he makes underlapping runs and he tries to get in advanced positions, and his chance creation is up there with some of them, like the likes of Trent in the Premier League. So, which is a crazy stat. I mean, I'd never have expected him to be that, but I just think in this game that the delivery, it's not going to come from him. I think Leeds are going to press. It's going to be hard for someone like Creswell to come out of the back. And I'm looking at our wingbacks, mate. I mean, for me, Arthur Masuaku and Soufal are fantastic going forward, but we've got to be brave enough when we get the chance to go forward. And that's where we got to carry the ball, because I'm not convinced with our midfielders, Souček and Rice, as good as they are, they're not lightning quick on transitions. And I think we've got pace in those wing-back areas.
I mean, I look at that West Ham team, and I think Rice and Souček, and I'm not saying they're directly comparable, but it reminds me a bit of like Chelsea under Conte kind of thing, in terms of Kante and Matic there. Not particularly creative midfielders, but midfielders who are reliable, strong, can very much, I know it's only a two-man midfield, but they do the work of three players kind of thing. They're just so energetic, reliable in possession. And I think obviously in terms of creativity, it's lacking, but it feels like to me, mate, looking at West Ham, all the creativity is coming from out wide, really, in terms of crossing into the box. The team's very much built around getting the ball into either the fullbacks or Bowen or Fornals on the left. I mean, would it probably be Fornals or Benrahma? Would you be?
Oh man, this debate every week on my channel. It's the debate with West Ham fans, Fornals and Benrahma. And I think Fornals will probably start, if I'm honest. That Moyes favours him. He's got fantastic work rate. It will be good if Leeds try and push up down the wings. But at the same time, Benrahma, even when he come on against United, it was too late. But he's got the pace. He can beat a man. He's got the quality of assists. He comes into sort of midfield areas as well and picks the ball up in space. So I would rather have Benrahma in the side. But there's no point in me predicting it. I've done it for 3 weeks now. Moyes keeps playing Fornals. So expect Fornals to start 100%.
I mean, obviously watching your channel loads, mate. I mean, obviously I know you're a big fan of Said Benrahma. And even if he doesn't start this game, having watched him play against us for Brentford, he is some talent. He is some talent, that man.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd certainly fancy him to do well for West Ham. I mean, can you see him, even if he only comes on with 20 minutes to go, having a big say in this game? Particularly if it's 0-0, so 20 minutes to go, and obviously we have maybe not tired legs because we don't really get tired, but the press is a little bit less energetic than it was in sort of the first 20 minutes. Can you see him maybe being more dangerous in that situation?
100%. I mean, in some aspects, I can see Fornals benefiting from Leeds sort of tiring from that press. I think I've seen your midfield, and on occasion you've got Phillips as sort of the base, as the pivot, and then sometimes, particularly against Chelsea, he was pushing with Click. And obviously, I don't know what the theory behind that is with Bielsa, possibly because Calvin's got such a good passing range and he can contribute. But it means that space just in front of your back four becomes a little bit exposed. Fornals and Benrahma thrive off it. And I saw against Chelsea, Giroud, who's not the most mobile, is picking up space in those pockets. And Fornals' biggest criticism, he's got no pace. He's a fantastic player in the final third. You can find that eye for a pass. I'd expect, both of them, Benrahma could come on. Lanzini might come on as well. They're all in that kind of mould of player. But listen, I think Benrahma deserves to start. I'm not sure he will. If he does, I think he can cause you issues from the get-go, to be honest.
No, 100%, mate. And just to say as well, guys, make sure you smash a like and you go and head over on Corey's channel as well. I've left the link down in the description, but don't do it yet. Don't do it yet while we're speaking.
Yeah, don't do it now.
Not yet. Just make sure you go and watch Corey's channel, The West Ham Way, as soon as we are off on this one anyway. But yeah, it's a big blow for us, Robin Koch needing surgery. Me and Joe will touch on that a little bit more, but I think obviously you mentioned Declan Rice there, and obviously, it's not necessarily a comparison I like, but obviously Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips, that's going to be a very interesting battle. I think it's going to be the battle that the neutrals will definitely look at, England fans, because there's strong opinions both ways for me. But for me, I'm a little bit more in the middle. I do appreciate what Declan Rice can bring to a team, and obviously Calvin Phillips, naturally, I'm going to appreciate what he brings to the team. And to be fair, mate, obviously you've always given the glowing report on Calvin Phillips, but do you feel that's a real key battle in the game, in terms of who controls kind of the transitions better? I'm not going to kind of come face to face because both are kind of more defensive, but it's very much a case of who's going to protect their back four better, and who are you kind of backing in this kind of game? Who's kind of like
who's my favourite?
I know obviously you're going to say Declan Rice, but what kind of form is Declan Rice kind of in at the moment? Is he top of the game or?
I'd have to look. The thing you get with Declan, he has games where he's absolutely outstanding, and obviously because he is only 21, the improvement in his game you continually see it is actually a lot better in possession than he has been previously. I know now you'll hear me say, well, he's all over a midfielder and he's great on the ball. He wasn't always like that. He's had to transition from that centre back, and he's shown continual improvement. Obviously, Calvin Phillips for me has a better passing range, and I think I've seen that quite a bit, and it is fantastic from a deep line midfielder. To be honest, if you're looking at a battle, I think it's Declan dealing with someone like Click, because Click's ability to be mobile and pick it up from either wing and come central and try and link up play is something that can undo West Ham. And I hate it when we have players like that just in front of us, and obviously Phillips will put the pressure on it, make it difficult for us to get out. But I'm sure there'll be a physical battle between Declan and Calvin, because the thing is with our midfield, it's different from yours. You've got a 3-man, we've got a 2-man midfield. Souček and Rice have got to work so hard to be defensive and carry the ball. So I expect Declan to come out of position a little bit to try and meet it. And fingers crossed he gets the better. But listen, you're not going to see a lot from Declan in this game. It'll be a lot of wing-back play. It'll be a lot of our forwards. I think his role is defensive. He has to protect that back three.
Yeah, and obviously the back three I find quite interesting, because it's kind of like Aaron Cresswell seems to have gone to the left of the back three, which is, I always like to have a full back in the back three. I think it's something Bielsa always does, so he can cover like the wide areas. But obviously, Balbuena or Bonner, they've not kind of got the same kind of like praise as Cresswell. Have they all been as solid as each other, or is there anyone that's kind of a weak link in that back three at the minute, or particularly playing well or particularly not playing well, would you say?
Well, it's interesting, mate, because obviously before this formation come around, it was Diop and Ogbonna were our two starters. And listen, Angelo Ogbonna, since he come back, I think it was after Project Restart, has been phenomenal. Like he's an older head, he's got great organisation, brilliant in the air. He's not going to spray a pass like Cresswell or link up play, of course, but he is that leader. Balbuena was the weak link and always down that right-hand side. And that's why I kind of fear for someone like Bamford and if you give Click too much space. Because Bamford's movement, generally trying to get in behind, is very good. And Balbuena sometimes is too aggressive to try and win that ball. But against Manchester United, mate, he was superb. Honestly, he was winning the ball off Martial. It was easy for him. So there is improvements there. Cresswell transformation is phenomenal. I've not quite seen anything like it. He's not advancing as much. He's composed on the ball. He gets the ball into the forward men very quickly. And he was one of West Ham's worst players, if I'm honest. So, the fact we've got this back three now of Balbuena that was frozen out, Cresswell that wasn't quite good enough at left back, and Ogbonna that was out of form, it's credit to Moyes, mate, because I'm not sure how we've stumbled on it, but I'll take it all day long.
It's been interesting for Moyes, hasn't it? Obviously being near Liverpool, obviously I keep going about his Everton team, but he's kind of really rebuilt his career, hasn't he? Because ever since that moment he decided to go to cross the Pennines, should we say, it kind of just went wrong, didn't it? It's kind of been disastrous move after disastrous move. Went to Sociedad, then went to Sunderland. I think he'll regret ever taking that Sunderland job. And then he kind of went to West Ham. West Ham didn't keep him, and he came back 18 months later. I mean, what's kind of the feeling on David Moyes? Obviously, I know at the start of the season when we spoke on before the whistle blows, as we do every week, your kind of view of West Ham has just got
completely changed.
And a bit more positive compared to if we go through every single video. It's like one of those those cameras where you just flip and you just go. It just gradually goes.
It's like a flip book. Yeah.
It's like a flip book. Honestly, it's just like. I mean, what's your opinion, David Moyes? First of all, and what's the general West Ham consensus? Because I know obviously the big thing with West Ham, as your channel says, the West Ham way. I remember back in the day, Sam Allardyce wasn't particularly popular for playing kind of a brand of football, which I suppose David Moyes is kind of going towards. Is there any worry about that with Moyes? In terms of does he need to be a bit more progressive, or is it just all about results at this moment in time?
I think, look, mate, to be fair to Moyes, when he first come in, the football was diabolical. Like, it really was. I remember watching us against Wolves and Spurs, which are two tough teams in fairness, but I think Spurs were a bit out of form towards the end of last season. Awful. It was long ball into Antonio. Hope he stretches the play, and then we'll go from there. Ever since that Chelsea game when we won 3-2, something's obviously clicked with Moyes. And I think we kind of look at managers and say, they've got to get it first time. But I think Moyes has gradually improved the side. The fact that now we attack with numbers, it's not an attractive style. It's not like the Leeds, possession-based and trying to build up the play gradually. It is incredibly functional. But with this system now, it gives us the opportunity to press in numbers and sit in numbers. And actually, to a degree, that's quite exciting. I mean, there's sometimes where it's a bit like reckless, the press. Sometimes it can be a bit boring. But I think credit to Moyes, he hasn't got the players in there to play a certain way. He's got the best out of the players that we've got. We haven't got the money, which is so frustrating, and I'm not quite sure why, for reasons beyond me and most of the fan base. But I think the opinion on Moyes is he differs. And we did a stream on Saturday, and the guy on the stream was fuming. He blamed Moyes, and I was like, it's a bit harsh. Man United, they changed it up, brought Fernandes on. But I see what he means. Sometimes he takes too long to make subs, and I think fans see that as a lack of in-game management. But then the other week against Villa, brought on Ben Rama, brought on Allaire, changed the game. So I think the more the time goes on, I think the more people are slightly edging towards Moyes, giving us stability, improvement in results, and fair play to him. Like, credit to him. I mean, he's come into a poison chalice again, and he's actually done quite well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, obviously, this time last year, obviously, I think you still had Pellegrini in charge. Remember, you had that goalkeeper. I remember his name.
Man, Roberto, worst goalkeeper.
So it was just basically I cannot. I mean, he actually made Kiko Casilla look relatively okay, to be fair, in comparison, and that is saying something, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, West Ham were in him even before lockdown, mate. Obviously, you were in trouble. Obviously, I know you avoided relegation quite comfortably, but what's that? Ever since the project restart, Ogmon's performance improved, and his whole form in general seems to have improved. But some big decisions he's made. Obviously, Mark Noble I know Mark Noble, he splits West Ham fan opinion, but that's still a big decision, isn't it? Kind of phasing him out the team. When he's getting on a bit, but he's not that old kind of thing. It's quite an interesting one. That I mean, obviously phasing on Mark Noble, but in terms of Haller, obviously Haller's one you just mentioned there. Who are we expecting up top then? In terms of will Antonio be back for this one?
Yeah, unfortunately, he won't, mate. Look, I mean, he come on against Villa. He was unfit.
I'm happy with that. I'm happy with Antonio.
I know, because I'll tell you what, Antonio will cause you some serious issues from what I've seen. But he went off against Villa. We had to bring Allaire on, and for me, Allaire is a technically better striker. He's got actually better finishing. But he doesn't have the ability to stretch the fences, and it's a bit frustrating when you're trying to hit someone on the counter and the guy just doesn't have the pace to do it. But I think you saw against United a couple of times where he's broke with the ball, and obviously it was an absolute sitter, but he has got enough pace and enough decent movement to get in on goal. But yeah, look, he'll start, man. He'll start. He's our only striker. We don't have any other choice, unfortunately. So yeah, we got to give him a chance, man. He's got to run the games now. If he proves himself, maybe he can try and keep Antonio out the side.
What I've noticed about Haller, obviously Antonio's exceptional in the air as well, but Haller seems to have a lovely placement on his headers, kind of thing. He seems to just. I don't know what he was.
He's won the second most aerial duels last season in the Premier League. I mean, given most of the time it didn't actually go to anyone, but in fairness, he still wins them. So it's a massive part of his game.
It's a problem for us, though. It's a problem for us. I was going to say, I think obviously in terms of his finishing, seems to be really good with his head as well, and he obviously seems to try and link up play. I mean, with obviously Robin Koch out, as I mentioned on the set piece element, obviously in open play, it's a bit of a problem as well. Because obviously, if you're going long on goal kicks, you've got Zuzek trying to win the flick on, Haller trying to win the flick on, Bowen, Fornals, especially Bowen running in behind, making himself an outlet. I mean, I definitely get horrible kind of flashbacks to Crystal Palace here, in that kind of sense. In terms of it's a similar kind of makeup, in terms of, you've got the pacey wide men and you've got the powerful people running through the middle and into the box. And it's certainly something that can hurt us. Is there any sort of specific areas that you look at this in this Leeds team at the minute? So I don't know if you saw the Chelsea game or not.
I know you
do
saw the
research,
second half,
there, mate. I know you do research. I know you love it. Any specific areas you're targeting other than kind of Robin Koch being out? Is there anything you're looking at this Leeds team? I mean, left-hand side, is that something you're a bit more positive about having seen it against Chelsea?
For me, it's the wide areas. And I think Bielsa has this way. I think when he's out of possession, what he'll do is he'll get his back four to come in quite central and make it difficult to break down. And he'll try and bring back like Harrison or Rafinha and almost have like this wing-back system, which would make it difficult in theory. In transition, it's a lot easier for us. And most of West Ham's play is going to be in transition. And I expect someone like Masuaku or Fornals down the left or Soufal and Bowen to have a lot of space. And if you give West Ham that type of space, particularly from deliveries, it will hurt you. And I think even Haller, he's not the quickest. He's not going to stretch Cooper or Lorenzo if he comes in. But I think his natural striking movement can cause you issues. We saw it from Giroud, and we saw it for the goal as well with Reece James. So for me, that's an area. I think in terms of you pressing us, which means we're going to have to be quite defensive a lot of the time, you do leave spaces just in front of that kind of back four. I think I watched the Leicester game as well. And when they brought Maddison on, I think he was crying out for a 10. You bring a 10 in, West Ham won't, but it can hurt you. And I think we've got a real chance to hurt Leeds on the counter. The problem is when you're in possession, you're going to pin us back at times. It's going to be hard for us to actually get out. And it depends how quickly West Ham are in that phase of trying to get it to the forward men to try and make it happen. If we're too slow, you'll bring back numbers. It'll be difficult to break down. But make set pieces 100%. I don't think I've seen one clip, unfortunately, of you lot being able to defend one really well. And it's too hard. You look at Man United, mate. You look at Souček with that late run. That's West Ham's bread and if we can't break you down or we can't get a goal, we'll go to that, and that'll be our go-to. So definitely watch out for that, mate.
It makes a lot of sense for you because this season we had John McKenzie from All Stats, aren't we? Who's basically, in terms of statistical knowledge and tactical analysis of the game, is the best in the business for me on Leeds United, certainly on podcasts and that lot. And he said yesterday that the 8 deliveries, set-piece deliveries for Chelsea, guess how many of those 8 set pieces, those 8 corners, found the Chelsea head on each occasion? Have a guess.
It's all of them, man.
7. Surely. 7 out of the 8. Really? Only one of them was clear. All season, 50% of the set piece deliveries, the next touch after the cross comes into the box has been an opposition player's head. 50%. I think Crystal Palace, I think John was saying, it was 23%. So it's clearly an area to target us with. But by the sounds of what you're saying there, mate, and obviously what I've seen of West Ham, I'm not saying Haller isn't a danger man at all. He's certainly someone who is a massive threat in the air. But I do feel that Antonio being missing does make the job a lot easier for us because it only kind of leaves Bowen as the main kind of threat in transition for me in terms of carrying the ball from defence to attack. I mean, talk to me a bit more about Bowen, mate, because we've seen him at Hull. We've seen what he's done to us at Hull. Last time we faced Jarrod Bowen, was probably the best job we've done on him, to be fair. It's around this time last year, to be fair. In fact, it might even be near enough this time a year ago. And we played Hull. We won the game 2-0. But what really stood out was it wasn't a particularly great performance from us, but Stuart Dallas sat on Jarrod Bowen and just literally everywhere, absolutely everywhere, was following Jarrod Bowen. And it kind of completely... Hull went in with that same kind of approach. And now Hull, completely different scale in terms of technical quality to West Ham. But in terms of had the same plan, and Bowen was the main outlet, the clear main outlet. And we closed him off. And Bielsa's big thing was that in terms of dealing with a left-footed right winger, he always wants a right-footed left back, which I found quite interesting because he wants him tackling on his stronger foot. I found that interesting. So I'm expecting probably Stuart Dallas at left back. We had Alioski there.
Thanks for telling me, mate, because I was going to put Alioski back. No.
As much as Timo Werner missed a lot of chances, I mean, Timo Werner's finishing was incredibly bad on the day, but in terms of breaking out, in terms of that fierce just pace on the right-hand side, it caused us big problems. And I imagine Moyes has probably looked at that. And yeah, I mean, Is Bowen probably the biggest threat then for West Ham without Antonio?
Possibly. I mean, I think that the ability of Jarrod Bowen, and I think why West Ham fans rate him, at the moment there's a little bit going around because sometimes his decision making is quite poor. We've seen that particularly against Sheffield United and it was disappointing. But his directness, his ability to take on the man, he'll drag players out of position. He did it to Tellez on Saturday night as well, and it creates that space in behind. I think this is when you're going to see him at his most dangerous. When teams sit back against West Ham, Bowen can get a bit frustrated. He'll get on the ball a lot, but he won't be able to get forward and get past. But if there's space for him, he'll run into it. He'll inevitably find a man. He can cut in on that left foot. His finishing's fantastic as well. But like I've said, the decision-making, if he sees Haller or Ben Rama or Fornals on the other side in space, he needs to make that correct decision because West Ham, for me, obviously you saw Saturday, not clinical enough, massively disappointing to not take our chances. But one thing I would say actually about both the wingers, Fornals and Bowen, what you'll see when you've got the ball, they'll come to the left and the right and we'll play almost like a 5-4-1 and make it difficult. So Moyes prides is almost his attacking wide players also on their defensive work rate, which is why you don't really see Ben Rama as much and why it's frustrating sometimes when you want someone with a bit of pace when we've got to go at a team. It might suit him with Leeds to play Fornals, just to sit a bit deeper, soak it up, and try and hit Leeds out and work into Haller and Bowen. But definitely, mate, Bowen with a raw pace for me. If it's Fornals, Haller, Bowen front line, he's the guy to get in behind.
Interesting. Obviously, from that Man United game, it guts me that I have to talk, because I was thought when I was watching that game, I was thinking, oh, this is good. I'm going to talk to Corey about West Ham beating Man United, but
I don't know, man.
You had to bottle it, didn't you? You had to bottle it.
Well, it's the West Ham way, isn't it?
Hopefully, as a great little plug for the channel, that, to be fair. But yeah, look, hopefully Leipzig aren't going to do the same thing. Please, Leipzig, don't do the same thing. What I found in that West Ham game was when Bruno Fernandes came on. I know obviously Bruno Fernandes is a really good player, but it was that number 10 coming on between the lines, between the midfield two and the back three. Is that the problem? Because obviously our main guy for that is probably Rodrigo Moreno. Whether Rodrigo Moreno might start this game, to be fair. There's a lot to talk about.
I hope he doesn't, mate.
He's our big... Rodrigo Moreno is effectively our side Ben Rama in the sense that we all want to see him, but it's just about fitting him into the team without losing all our defensive shape. But for me, I was looking at West Ham on thinking, I thought as soon as the number 10 came on, in the first half, I thought you were so compact, and in that 5-4-1 block, it was impossible for Man United to sustain any kind of attack, never mind create a chance. And I just thought when the number 10 came on, started moving, drifting in and out, drifting from the right to the left to the centre, and had that bit of freedom. And obviously one of your players, either Rice or Zucek, had to come out to him, and it kind of left you with like one man in midfield.
Yeah,
is that the way to have a go at West Ham a little bit, do you feel? Is that probably the one weakness of your system when you get people individual quality, say a Rodrigo Moreno or even Rafinha if he drops into that kind of like central area? Is that probably how you break this West Ham team down at the minute if you are going to have a go at that Moyes low block?
Yeah, definitely, man. It does my head in every week. I see it because I think there's a time to play the press. And I think United, look, they played Van de Beek as the number 10 then. But the press was good. The defence was a lot higher. The midfield was a bit more conservative. We weren't pressing too high. We were chasing that second goal. And obviously to transition and bring the ball out from defence, you need the likes of Rice and Souček to carry the ball. And when you do that, you obviously lose a man. And I think this is the issue, is what I've said with you having your three-man midfield and us having our two. The job that both of them have to do is incredible. And I think for me, personally, I would like Moyes to allow Phillips and Click, as dangerous as he can be with playing between the lines, to have the ball. Because I think when you've got that low block on and they're sitting a bit deeper, it's really difficult to break West Ham. We can just take the pressure all day long. But yeah, you're right, man. Grealish had a lot of luck against us as well. We gave him way too much space for that goal. I hate it when when the press isn't right, and it's obviously something Moyes is experimenting with. Just don't do it against Leeds and the likes of Chelsea. Do it in the games where maybe we've got to break a team down, because you just get exploited. Rodrigo would frighten the life out of me. Rafinha would frighten the life out of me. Even Click, mate. I know Click almost plays a bit like an 8, but plays in a lot of advanced positions. If he can get any space in behind, we're in trouble.
Well, there's 3 goals, 3 assists from the first 12 games, which is kind of like a goal involvement every kind of 2 games, which is pretty decent for a number 8, really. And obviously, Click, I know Click's kind of the main headline of Click so far has been his passing quality, ability to control the tempo, control games, and probably being, for me personally, in my biased opinion, I'd say probably outside the top 6 has probably been the best player so far this season at doing that, and there's probably one of the best players outside the top 6 in the league at doing that. But Just a pusher for a prediction then, mate. Going off the basis that Leeds, Robin Koch's not going to be available. It's going to be Rente and Liam Cooper. Obviously, a partnership that's only played once before against Chelsea. And obviously, the central midfield, who's going to play alongside Click, still a bit up in the air. But say if it is Rodrigo, how would you see the game going as a quick little prediction? Not just the result, but in terms of the flow of the game. Is it a case of, is it going to be a similar kind of game to Leicester and Palace in terms of if West Ham are clinical, they can really cause us damage? Or is it a case of, is it going to be a little bit different to that, do you feel?
I think it's going to be, I hope it's a boring, horrible game to watch where West Ham are just sitting back and soaking up pressure because, look, we've seen you lot against Wolves and Leicester when they sit deep. It's frustrating for you. You can't create any clear-cut chances. You try and create overloads. You try and make pressure. But West Ham we actually benefit from that. I'd rather we were just sitting deeper and soaking it up. For me, we've just got to take risks. And this is the problem with this West Ham side. When you can rely on Antonio to pick up the ball on the sort of the centre circle and drive with it, we don't have to worry about pressing up. We have to press up with someone like Fornals and Haller because they can't physically take that ball far enough to exploit. When you've got Chelsea, Werner, even like Giroud, decent move, Pulisic, those players can do it all day long. West Ham have to push the wing-backs up. We will have to commit risks at some point. I just think if we do it and we take our time, we'll get a goal, we can sit back and we can just frustrate you. I'd rather get one goal even if from a dodgy set piece and just sit back for the rest of the game because I just don't want to get into a pressing match with Leeds. It's not what it's about. But knowing Moyes, don't worry, lads. I'm sure he'll try and press you from the minute go.
And those first 10 minutes really key, Dan, do you think? In terms of the flow of the game. If West Ham I just saw Man United have actually gone 2-0 down now. 2-0.
Oh, beautiful,
13
man.
minutes.
They need Pogba in there. I don't know what's happened to him, but yeah.
He's on his way to West Ham, mate. But he won't get in ahead of Declan Rice.
Don't get in over Souček either.
He won't get in the seat, to be fair. Like, midfield too superb. But is it really key then, those first 10, 20 minutes? Because what Leeds' best performances this season for me, mate, have been when we really took control of the game in that first half an hour. Not necessarily scored, because we haven't actually scored that many early goals this season. In terms of creating chances and sustaining pressure and getting our high line, pushing and staying compact and, really taking the game to the opposition, which we always try and do. But in terms of just controlling the game in your half of the pitch to an extent, having all our back four sat on your halfway line and just kind of controlling possession from there and dictating the tempo. That feels to me, mate, as it's going to be really key. Obviously, Moyes is going to try and turn us round and stop us getting into any kind of rhythm, which is, to be fair, as much as I hate to say it, is what Frank Lampard did really well. I mean, surely Moyes will have looked at that Chelsea game, and I don't not saying it's going to go in for the same approach because obviously it's different ends of the scale. But surely he's looked at that Chelsea game and saw those wide areas that if you can get the ball into down those channels nice and early, it can cause a problem for Leeds at this moment in time.
Yeah, of course, mate. I mean, it just depends how high West Ham are up the pitch. Do you know what I mean? You've got to get those balls in to the likes of Soufal and Bowen from the midfield. And I wouldn't be surprised. I think Moyes is trying to adapt this style of play the 5-4-1 when you've got possession, make it difficult, make it frustrating, and then immediately changing the quickness of that transition and almost creating that forward three. I expect you to have a lot of the ball. I think in some respects, you'll probably be almost have too much of the ball where Click will be picking it up and trying to play it with the wingers and get it back. And he'll think, why is there so much space? We can't defend the amount of space that some of the likes of Phillips and Click will cover. We can't. So it'll be interesting to see how you try and break us down. And it'll be interesting to see where we concede ground. Because I think the midfield, unfortunately, I thought Chelsea did a fantastic job in that midfield of winning that ball and having Kante. That's the way I would love West Ham to do it. To do it, we're going to have to press you. And again, I don't want to do that either. So I'd rather we just sat back. We were compact in terms of the defence, and then we just use the width, and we just have to keep relying on it. And it will be, you'll come back to me on Saturday, say, oh, it was a rubbish game. You don't play proper football. Unfortunately, that's the way West Ham play at the minute. But if we get the result, then that's all I care about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of Bielsa, the way he's played, it's set a big benchmark for the other managers. But the last thing you're going to talk about, so obviously you spoke about Moyes differs quite a lot. I mean, what's that West Ham depth like at the minute? I know obviously you've got Noble on the bench. Is it bad at the minute? Would you say it's more down to that Moyes is reluctant to make a substitution? And could West Ham, obviously with our levels of fitness being superior to pretty much every team in the league, if not every team in the league, do you think that could be a problem for West Ham? They could burn out a little bit with 20 minutes to go in the game.
Depends how we want to play. If we want to press you all over the pitch, then yeah, of course we run out of steam. If we want to sit, then West Ham, yeah, exactly. But look, the squad depth's not good enough, and it never has been. And I think this whole West Ham ability to become almost like a top 10 side now has got nothing to do with the board. You know, the lack of money that's been spent, the lack of options we can call on. We've got one recognised striker, 2 midfielders that we can bring in of Noble and Snodgrass. And Snodgrass isn't really even a centre midfielder. Noble's obviously getting a lot older. They're not even in the mould of a Rice or a Souček. And so this January window for me is so important. West Ham guy, I think we've apparently agreed a cut price deal for Josh King. Brilliant. But knowing West Ham, they'll go and sell Allaire and we'll still only have 2 strikers. Josh King is a perfect player to play for West Ham. John Lundstrom's a perfect player to go and get at West Ham as a backup option. Those are the signings we should make. It's such a test, mate. It is such a test at the moment for West Ham that depending on where we finish, or particularly where we are in January, whether the board go out and strengthen, because we're already getting signs that we've got no money. But back to your question, yes, the reason why we don't change it for me is because he doesn't trust players. And we saw this at the end of last season, like Felipe Anderson, Allaire, was playing them for like 5 minutes at the end, just doesn't. And this is what I'm saying.
Can't settle into the game, can they, with that little time? To be fair, that's what Bielsa can do as well. Bielsa has got that 10. So, I mean, the odds are that we won't see a substitution in this game until like the 83rd minute.
Well, I called it bang on last week because we did predictions when's Moyes going to make his first sub, which is probably going to become a bit of a feature of watch-alongs. But I said, probably 75 minutes like Lanzini, Benrahma. It exactly happened. It's that predictable. Like in some cases, it's not, and that's why it's frustrating. It's not even done because there's a tactical reason. He just knows that he's going to do that before the game, and then he does it. So yeah, it's frustrating, mate. It is, but we haven't got the options, and he doesn't trust them. So I mean, if he doesn't trust them, then you can't blame him for not bringing on players that don't fit. So it's tough, man. But I've seen you don't change your team a lot either, so that is quite helpful.
I mean, yeah, you could definitely have get good odds on what the starting 11 will be on both teams. Well, quite fancy seeing the odds on that. I think you could put a good bet on it. But, mate, we'll leave it there. Obviously, we'll be back, me and you, Joe, Locks, and Hal from the Sheffield United way. And we'll all be live at Before the Whistle Blows. As you guys will already recognise Corey from. We will be live on Thursday this week, previewing the game. But, mate, just before you go, as always, talk to me about your channel and just have a quick plug of your channel, mate. Obviously, it's in the link in the description. Explain to us your channel.
Right. So basically, it's a little bit of it's more of a tactical look at West Ham in general. Obviously, we've got a fan show every 11 o'clock every Saturday where we just sit and talk about. So I can be a little bit more relaxed and have a rant about stuff. But throughout the week, it's literally you've got predicted 11s, score predictions, game changes, which is a feature I do. I want to bring in more tactics, like a tactics board as well. Loads of pre-match content, post-match reactions as well. And then obviously I'm on Before the Whistle Blows, which is nice to talk about everything other than West Ham, particularly if it's been a bad result. But yeah, keep an eye out for that because I'm going to put a video out quite shortly for both. So it'd be nice to have this and then a bit of that as well. And all your Leeds fans and West Ham fans can get your fix before Friday night.
And of course, after the game, we'll be also collabing as well. Obviously,
that'll be fun.
We're coming over to result. Over to you. One of us will be ranting. One of us will be ranting. Anyway, mate, but absolutely top class. Corey Kemp. And just before we go, guys, I just want to say a massive thank you for your votes for getting us to this award. An absolute honour to have been announced as the winners of the best club content creator in the Football League. An absolute honour to win this award. Thank you so much, guys. And me and Joe will be live tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, basically previewing the game as we always do. Me and Joe previewing it, talking about the presser, and me and Corey and Joe, etc., will be on Before the Whistle Blows as well. I'm going to leave it there, guys. I'm just going to do this awkward moment when it doesn't stop the stream.